Hello, I'm Casey Aiken, and this is 21 This Week. Coming up next, Maryland judge blocks Trump immigration ban. The Trump budget cuts a mighty swath through Washington. Tussle over muscle. Hulk Hogan versus the two Mikes. And the amazing race for Montgomery County Executive. Stay tuned. Our panel of insiders will give you the story behind the story. We're joined by past president of Progressive Maryland, Elbridge James, political strategist Susan Heltemes, media consultant Jerry Cave, and Republican entrepreneur Phil Bell. Stay tuned for these stories and more on the next 21 This Week. Magazine, the upcoming primary campaign could be most crowded and hotly contested for county executive in 50 years. But as discussed last week, there may be 10 candidates considering running for executive, but there's a short list which includes businessman David Trone, Council President Roger Berliner, Council Member Mark Elrich, and Council Member George Leventhal, and also Delegate Ben Kramer. The power brokers behind the scenes are the Committee for Montgomery and Empower Montgomery, who are working to identify and recruit more business-friendly candidates because, according to Bethesda Magazine, amid the undercurrent and unhappiness with the recent actions of the council, there is skepticism about the resumes of the incumbents who are poised to run for executive. Unmentioned in the article, of course, are any prospects of Republican candidates winning, even though Robin Ficker, the only announced Republican, who to date was the most successful initiator of the term limit ballot that passed by nearly 70%. Elbridge, the lengthy profile in Bethesda Magazine suggests there is more to the executive race than observers seem to think, but at this stage, isn't it just much to do about nothing?
Oh, it's just raising the flag at this point. I believe there are going to be other candidates enter this race that people are not aware of. If you notice, right now we're talking about all the males in the room. What about the females? What about those that would rise up? As we all learned from Donald Trump, anyone can
wait a
win
minute.
the race.
Who are you talking about? Do you have a dark horse candidate that's waiting to announce?
No, but that doesn't say that there's not one out there, and that's my point.
I mean, Nancy Florine was the only female candidate being mentioned as a possibility, and she's pretty much taken herself out of the race
at this moment. But there are other candidates from our past that can either rise
Nancy
or new.
Navarro has been
exactly, or new women who are showing up. Right now, the women's movement is very empowered, and they're looking at this and saying, "Wait a minute, this is basically a man's club race, and we're going to get into this."
All right, good point, Elbridge. But now let's go to Susan. Susan, the last time there was a truly contested primary race, Neil Potter won. And are we likely to see the same thing where an improbable candidate with a strong regional backing wins over a divided primary?
Well, you forgot the 1994 election when a little-known former mayor of Rockville named Doug Duncan ran against the Titan, Bruce Adams, who had been around a long time and engaged for a long time. And Doug Duncan came out. It helped that a guy named Gus Bauman helped split the vote. But this time there'll be even more splitting. And then last time,
well, it's like really the seven dwarfs that we have, not any titans in this race. I mean, you can hardly consider any of the council people really stellar.
But we have other candidates, as Elbridge said. There may be others. There's David Trone, who's a businessman. There's Ben Kramer, the son of Sid Kramer, who is a business person in his own right, has been in the legislature, and has worked on a lot of issues that could have county-wide followings.
Well, so, Jerry, explain why Robin Ficker, who has caught this movement of dissatisfied voters, may have a chance to win.
Well, first off, what I want to point out is there's not a single elected business person to the county council or to the state government in Annapolis out of Montgomery County, which is really bad.
Ben Kramer is a business person.
And but Robin Ficker already won. He's already gotten a lot of these Democrats to have to run for this race because they got term limited on their county council seats. So it's going to be tough for Robin, but in my opinion, he's already won by getting this race to be this divided.
Well, I think it's great because we're going to spend the next 12 months talking about this and finding out who's going to be able to last in this marathon that we're into right now. Most observers of Maryland politics conclude that Republican Governor Larry Hogan walks a very fine line when it comes to identity politics. For example, he took a decidedly no comment approach when it came to candidate Donald Trump in his radioactive campaign for president. But this week, Larry Hogan came out more like Hulk Hogan. He ripped off his mild-mannered identity while vowing to veto the Medical Leave Act legislation that he considered only being brought up by his opponents to use as political fodder against him in 2018. Jerry, the tag team duo of Mike Bush and Mike Miller, have been laying traps for Governor Hogan. How successful will the governor be in defeating their efforts?
He'll defeat them, but I'll tell you what the thing is. This is all about one thing, Hogan getting reelected. Because if he gets reelected in a year where they have to set the new districts, it'll mean everything. So it's like this book they wrote in the 70s called The Inner Game of Tennis. Hogan just has to keep the ball going over the net. And the guy is already one of, if not the most popular governor in the country, and he's in a Democratic state, and he's a Republican. He's the second smartest politician in America, and he will beat the two Mikes, and they deserve it.
Well, Phil, I want to ask you about that because something Governor Hogan did today may have been upsetting to his political base in Western Maryland, and that is he came out today in favor of the ban on fracking, even though he talked this morning on WMAL News about how tough his fracking regulations were.
Yeah, that would be, I'd say, a situation of overplaying your hand. I agree with Jerry. He is the second smartest politician in the country. He's done a great job, but part of the reason why he's done that is by drawing a contrast. So to say that, hey, we're going to side with liberal Martin O'Malley ideas and reject fracking, which can be beneficial to Western Maryland and beneficial to every Marylander by bringing down the cost of energy for the sake of what? I'm not really sure. That's the direction you don't want to go as Governor Hogan.
Well, he's really very astute there, and we've talked about this before. Larry Hogan outdoes Democrats, and on this issue, he is going to get some of those Democrats who are saying, ooh, do I really want to vote? There are a lot of people in the state against fracking, and, he can't win or lose on that.
Susan, let's talk, just you and me and the 30,000 people that are watching us right now. Do you think any Democrat is going to vote for Larry Hogan who's against fracking?
Yes.
Do you really think that?
They're
going to not vote for a Democrat who's dyed in the wool environmentalist.
Well, he was against Trump. Well, he wasn't for Trump, but he's taken other issues. He may veto this sick leave, but he's been supporting sick leave. He has taken away a lot of issues from Democrats. And I want to go back to you, Jerry, with this popularity.
I can see that.
He has an extremely incredibly high rating, but 50% of that, I swear, is that he's a cancer survivor. He came on the scene.
No, it's because he's what he needs to win re-election is he needs to get his campaign manager back that he had last time, which was Martin O'Malley.
And I just want to say for all the Democrats out there, the Democratic Party released a video today about Larry Hogan not speaking up against the repeal of the Affordable Care Act. And it's the first thing that Kathleen Matthews from Montgomery County did. It's her first big activity as the chair. And the Democratic Party is going to be energized. Everybody should look up that.
Oh, believe me,
But
this is
Susan,
going to be the race of all time.
Tell me which one is it? Is he going to get Democrats or is he not going to get Democrats? Because a minute ago you were saying that he is because he opposed fracking, but now this is what I'm talking about.
But you know what? He did not go against anything that Trump has done. He has
Trump hasn't done anything yet.
No, the Affordable Care Act repeal is getting hit right and left by the other Republican governors in this country as they worry about the people like 40-some thousand in the state of Maryland that could lose their health care. He has not spoken up.
Let me step in. There is no information out there to suggest that anybody is going to lose their health care. What the CBO put out and said, this 24 million are actually people who will no longer have Obamacare mandated style health plans. That means for me as a male, that I will no longer have a health plan that says I have to cover hysterectomy. Therefore, if I
And
want
I
to get
don't have to cover prostate
and
surgery?
that's right. So therefore,
guys agree. Fantastic.
you will not have to have that. And so by the CBO
That
score,
is
you lose your health
minimal.
care.
That
It's
is
not
minimal.
true. It's
That-
not accurate, and we need to put that
It
out there.
But you
is-
got to remember, he talking about a health plan that has 3 phases, and you and I both know the health first phase will go in, and then the second 2 phases will be lost.
And the Senate
people
isn't
will
gonna
lose some
vote
health.
for it.
I want to tell you
Wait,
something.
no, wait a minute. I'm going to tell you all something. We're going to break.
Okay.
So when we come back, Donald Trump's first budget drew a lot of attention. It was an attention grabber, and a Maryland U.S. District Court judge blocks President Trump's immigration order. Stay tuned. And welcome back. I had to hold them off during the break. I just want you to know that. I just want the audience to know that these people were just still going at it all throughout the break. But not since Jack Burton rescued green-eyed Mei Yin from the sorcerer in Big Trouble in Little China has the nation been in such an uproar. As all of the Washingtonian media melted down over the deep federal budget cuts contained in President Trump's first federal budget. Susan, the Trump budget goes after many programs dear to Democrats. Will Trump be more successful than Ronald Reagan in defunding the federal giant?
Well, when I opened up my newspaper Thursday morning, there was this graph of all the cuts that the Trump administration wanted to do, and it sort of left me totally underwhelmed. But last night, Thursday night, I was with a Republican congressman on the House Ways and Means Committee, and he said it isn't going to go anywhere. And he, for instance, is upset about the cuts to the State Department. But what blew my mind is everybody had the same issues they were concerned about: the EPA and health care.
Susan, this is not much different, really, than what Ronald Reagan did when he got into office, which was he proposed massive budget cuts to the federal government.
He was affable.
You know,
And he had a capable staff, and
what was the difference, Susan? The difference was he didn't have a Republican Congress to work with,
But the
and this one does.
You can't
Jerry,
depend on that.
unlike the state of Maryland, where the chief executive actually writes the budget, the presidential budget is merely a suggestion, which Congress, and apparently there are a lot of people in Congress that don't like it, Jerry. How much of the Trump budget will get passed?
As usual, you are using the wrong verb. Donald Trump does not suggest, he negotiates. And what he does is he comes out with a strong position so that when he negotiates into where he wants to be, it's where we want to be. The American people have been clamoring for these cuts for years, and there's nothing compassionate about burdening future generations with unsustainable debt and debt service. And Donald Trump is going in there to cut this back, and the American people are cheering him on.
But Jerry,
Elbridge.
you need to
Wrong.
understand the fact I may clamor for something, not knowing all the details or how, in fact, those procedures will cut into what I need. And I believe that that budget is going to hurt middle class and white America and suburban America as much as it's going
Phil.
to hurt
But wait a
minority American
second.
in inner city.
Please explain, how does that work? How is it going to hurt middle class America? I want to play off something Jerry said. It's not just debt and debt service, it's the lack of opportunity. And the fact is that generation after generation had much more opportunity to grow, to
School
build
lunches?
wealth, to have
School lunches?
homes, to have homes here in Montgomery County, just like you do, but that's being taken away because of the decision to say, you know what, we're going to ask for just a little more, as Martin O'Malley used to say. It's wrong. It has to stop, and this budget is a great
But
step
what
forward.
This budget's going
budget-
to hurt middle class America.
How
It's
is it
gonna
going to hurt middle class
It's going to hurt suburban
America?
America.
Middle
because
class
there are
America's
programs
already
that go to the states. There are block grants that go to the states that come out of
There
these
is so much
programs.
waste
that
and
I am-
fraud in federal government, Elbridge, and everybody on this panel knows it. And we cannot keep doing this to future generations. And what is wrong with the Democratic Party? You want to abort the unborn, and the ones you don't abort, you want to saddle them with crushing debt.
Jerry, with
Saddle
this,
them. If you don't
Jerry,
educate them, how are they going to earn a job?
Who's talking
Wait a
about not
second.
He's
educating them?
cutting the budget.
Elbridge,
He's
let
cutting
me,
all
let me
the
tell you,
budgets.
I am a middle class American. I can tell you that. And guess what? What I don't need, I can tell you, is to give Washington, D.C. a lot of money so I can get a little bit of money back and then run around and figure out how I'm going to pay
Well,
all the
what
bills.
this
How I
budget-
spend it
has
is
to
one thing.
stop.
This
How I spend is
budget-
what you're talking about. We're talking about effectiveness and efficiency. That is damn sure different than
They're
cutting
gonna
money.
cut 31%
No,
of the
we
State
need-
Department. That's about half what they ought to cut.
And why
Jerry,
do we need to give
what
the
this
State
budget
Department?
shows, wait a minute, what this budget shows is that Mexico is not paying for the wall. We are. That's what this budget shows, and it shows
Let me
that
tell
we're
you something.
adding
If that was the
54
worst thing that happens, we'd be pretty happy with
Well,
it.
no, but-
we would take the wall if we had to pay for it. But I
We aren't gonna pay for it.
guarantee you, they're going to pay for that
No,
wall
they're
one way or
not.
the other.
Don't be ridiculous. And the other
We
thing,
hold all the aces in the
Hold on,
deck.
hold on.
no,
Susan,
we don't.
Susan,
We
Yes,
let's
we do.
let's bring this in.
$54 million for defense.
What is wrong with
Yeah.
that?
And-
Do
That
happens
you-
to be
do you know
something the
the
government's
threat that
supposed to do.
that we are
Yes,
are
because
having
Donald
from Russia,
Trump keeps
from China,
tweeting and opening his mouth. It's
Wait,
getting
but
worse.
Susan, let's be
Wait,
honest. What
Susan,
you're doing is you've got
the
talking
launching
points.
No, I
and you've
don't.
just
Susan,
decided
hold
because
on,
you
Phil.
don't.
The launching of missiles from North Korea is because Donald Trump tweeted something. That's.
And now you know what
that is a ridiculous
Donald
suggestion.
Trump now has attacked China because they're not controlling North Korea. I mean, it is
That's
getting
exactly
worse.
correct.
It is
And that's
getting
exactly
worse
the right
and
thing to do.
worse.
So wait a minute. I want to just. I think I know the answer already. But as we go to break, let's poll the panel. Are the Trump's budget cuts a good thing or a bad thing? Elbridge,
It's a bad thing.
Phil,
Outstanding thing.
Jerry,
Great!
Susan,
Devastating.
Casey. We're going to break. No, we're not. We're going to our fourth topic. And once again, according to President Trump, some pointy-headed judge has blocked his plans to protect Americans from nefarious alien refugees. Maryland U.S. District Court Judge Theodore Chung, an Obama appointee who began his legal career clerking in that notorious Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals after graduating from, guess where? Harvard, issued an injunction Thursday blocking enforcement of one of the critical sections of President Trump's revised travel ban, using Trump's own comments against him in deciding that the ban was likely to run afoul of the Constitution. Elbridge, President Trump quoted the statute the other night, which reads, and this is a long quote, whenever the president finds that the entry of any aliens or any class of aliens into the United States would be detrimental to the interests of the United States, he may, by proclamation and for such period as he deems necessary, suspend the entry of all aliens or class of aliens as immigrants or non-immigrants, or impose on the entry of aliens restrictions he may deem appropriate. Now, on plain reading, it would sound like he's got the authority to do what he just did. Why didn't he?
Okay, those who attacked us on 9/11 were from Saudi Arabia. Do I see Saudi Arabia on this ban? No. This is in short term.
Wait a minute.
It walks like a duck and it talks
hold on.
like a duck. It's a goddamn
It's the
duck.
president of the United States who can decide which aliens or non-resident aliens are a
Again, he hasn't
problem.
proven his point. Saudi
doesn't have
Arabia
to.
citizens, yes, he does.
No, it doesn't. It says right there.
No, it says right there, depending on if it affect the laws. In fact, we have three sections of the government: legislative, judiciary, and executive. The
And this-
judiciary
They're
says if
they're
they're co-equal.
Not
the
in this
judiciary does
instance,
not believe it.
Not when it comes to the.
But
to
based on his word,
determining the immigration.
it's a religious ban.
It's a religious ban.
He
Yes.
is?
He
When did he
asked.
say that?
He
Does it
asked
say-
you.
People that
Wait a
aren't
minute.
in
Let
the
me
United
say.
Does it say that
Let me finish.
in the ban?
He asked Rudy
Did he?
Giuliani
Oh, he did?
to put
when
a
he was
group.
when he was a president or
No,
a candidate?
yes, when he
He
was
was president.
president.
Okay.
He asked
No,
Rudy
president.
Giuliani to put together this plan, and he called it a Muslim ban. Stephen Miller in the White House called it a Muslim ban.
It doesn't get past what the law says.
All right,
Yeah.
Phil.
I wanna-
Obviously,
yeah.
this is pretty political.
It is.
You've got a congressman, Jeff Duncan, saying that this is the judicial activism at its worst. While you have Representative Nanette Diaz-Barragan, who is grateful for a judiciary system that might provide oversight when you have a president who is doing whatever he wants, regardless of the law. And finally, you have the third branch of government, the judiciary, and it's being drawn into this. Judge Jay Bybee of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, in his dissent, said, as tempting as it is to use the judicial power to balance those competing interests as we see fit, we cannot let our personal inclinations get ahead of important overarching principles about who gets to make the decisions in our democracy. So who gets to make the decision in this instance?
Well, I want to agree with Elbridge on one thing. There are 3 co-equal branches of government. Unfortunately, the folks in the judiciary that appear to have gone to Harvard don't seem to understand how it works. They do not have the ability to determine what the law says. That's the legislature. If these judges would like to change the law, they can certainly go and run for Congress and attempt to do so. What they've done is acted outside of the bounds of the Constitution, which means, yes, they did something unconstitutional.
This is a
and the
temporary
President's
restraining
Act,
order.
the President's Act is legal, it is constitutional, and it is done fully within the bounds of how our republic is supposed to work. So to see this happen is very disheartening.
It's religious discrimination. And
How
you
is it
can't-
not.
religious?
It's exactly
you
what
want to know
Phil said
what
it was.
religious discrimination was? When Barack Obama was president and he did not allow persecuted Christians from the Middle East to immigrate to the United States, but he allowed Muslims to do so. That's religious discrimination. None of these judges could be found anywhere saying anything about that. Yet Christians, persecuted Christians by Muslims, died day after day, and we heard none of that from any of these quarters.
But now what he has said point blank in his legislation, it is any way you cut it, any way you paint it. You know, a pig
Why
with
don't-
lipstick
please
is
quote where that
Muslim
is.
discrimination.
Please quote where that is.
Because they can
Because
use,
and
the
you
judges
decided
are
that, and
using-
therefore you
no,
want to be
Phil,
said.
The judges are
Phil,
using
you
what
said-
the president said.
You said Obama made an executive decision.
Engaged in
your
religious
words.
discrimination. Yes,
You
that's
said
right.
he made an executive decision
To engage
and
in
in
religious
fact
discrimination?
to discriminate against Christians. And no one in the Christian community chose to in fact take him to court on it.
Pathetic, isn't it?
But
No-
he
no- no
called
one
it a
in the
Muslim
Christian-
ban. That's what he
no
said he
one in the
wanted.
Christian
He said
community
it just
Wait
the
a
other
chose
night.
second. Hold on. What you're complaining about, you're saying that Donald Trump is discriminating, which is not true. He hasn't even shown any intent to do so.
But you're saying
Barack
that
Obama
but
did,
said Obama
and you
did
don't
something
have a
that-
problem
and
with
we
that.
in the Christian community
Now you
did
wanna
not step
blame
up for
us.
our Christian
Ju-
brothers.
And you know what? There's probably should have been someone who stood up, and unfortunately they didn't.
That's
We're
right.
out of time. We're going to find out what happens in the Court of Appeals and whether or not Donald Trump or any president has the right to impose restrictions on those coming into our country. But stay tuned for Parting Shots.
And they-
And now with Parting Shots, Phil Bell.
While we have been debating Muslim bans and other on the field of politics, on the field of baseball, the World Baseball Classic has been an outstanding success, and it's so great to see the U.S. team, including Baltimore's own Adam Jones, doing a great job there. Crossing my fingers, hope we'll see them in the finals.
Thank you, Phil. Elbridge James, your parting shot.
Parting shot has to go to this panel. Lively discussion and thoughtful. Congratulate us all.
Thank you, Elbridge. Susan, your parting shot.
In this budget, they want to eliminate $3 billion worth of funding by getting rid of 19 agencies, including the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, goodbye Elmo, goodbye PBS, goodbye Ken Burns Specials, the National Institute of Arts, the National Institute of Humanities, the Corporation for National and Community Service, goodbye AmeriCorps, which had done a lot of things, the Institute of Peace, founded by Ronald Reagan, akin to military academies that was supposed to find ways to bring about peace. The Interagency on Homeless, the African Development Foundation to work with the starving people of the Sub-Sahara, the U.S. Trade and Development Agency, which promotes U.S. exports, really important for most of us. The Woodrow Institute for International Center for Scholars, it was working on government policy on foreign affairs, something this administration can use. The Chemical Safety Board, which investigates industrial chemical accidents, and the Neighborhood Reinvestment Board, plus a whole lot of other stuff. This is a screwed up budget.
Well, that's an enlightening comment there, Susan. Thanks so much. Jerry Cave, your parting shot.
What everybody has missed, which is as obvious as the pants on Casey's fanny, is that there has been an Irish coup d'etat in Washington. Everybody in Trump's administration with a speaking role other than Donald Trump, Mike Pence, Kellyanne Conway, Steve Bannon, Sean Spicer, and over in Congress, you got Ryan, you got McConnell, you got McCarty, and even at OMB, it's Mick Mulvaney. There has been an Irish takeover over the government, and Trump needs them. Why? Because the Irish love to fight, and they love to talk, and he needs them, and that's the Irish conspiracy that has taken over America.
And that's why we need you on our show. Well, as everyone can tell, I'm wearing my green color today in honor of St. Patrick's Day. 2 years ago, I had the pleasure of traveling to Ireland to reconnect with my Irish roots. One of the most amazing moments that I ever had was standing in the little village of Glynn, where my great-great-grandfather and his 8 brothers and sisters left to come to America in 1864. 1864, the middle of the Civil War. The fact is, they were leaving poverty, they were leaving serfdom, they were virtual slaves on Lord Fitzgerald's land in Ireland. They came to America for freedom. So for 21 this week, I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank the audience for tuning in. And remember to tune in each and every week to Montgomery County's hardest hitting political talk show. For 21 this week, I'm Casey Aiken.